Bore da, a diolch yn fawr iawn I pawb un o'ch chi I dod I Caerdydd yma. We really welcome you coming and joining us today. I usually give myself an ambitious slide count and end up cantering through it with a machine gun approach. So I'm not going to delay this any longer. I'm going to get straight in. But just very briefly, Martin mentioned Pembrokeshire Coastal Forum. We are a not-for-profit community interest company. Sustainable development, sustainable management of the coast has been core to what we do. We were born from disaster, if you like. The Coastal Forum came into existence on the back of the Sea Empress disaster in 2000. And as Martin has already alluded to, we developed the Marine Energy Pembrokeshire programme in 2009, and we were delighted when Marine Energy Wales was formally launched in Brussels in 2016. We have around about 20 international wave and tidal technology developers as part of what we do at the moment. About 50 members at the moment. You can see all the logos on the screens there. So yeah, it really is help building a cluster. We work across policy, supply chain, research, consents. I think collaboration is a key thing to what we do. Collaboration is really easy to write on a PowerPoint. It's really easy to write as words, but I think it's a little bit more difficult to do it in real life and in earnest. And I think not just as Marine Energy Wales, I think as a sector as a whole, this is something that we really need to push on with now and start collaborating. We've already mentioned, and Anna's covered this morning, and I know the Cabinet Secretary will build on this, but you know, Wales is committed to marine energy, and I think you will really pick up on that as we go through the day. It's been an evidence-based approach, and it's been a process that we've gone through, but I guess the Welsh Government have taken their time, and rightly so, to get this right. First of all, we looked at the resource. We're incredibly fortunate. We got a very nice, diverse resource around our coasts. It includes wave, it includes tidal stream, and as already mentioned, tidal range. But on the back of that, we do have some world-class ports and energy sector supply chains that are crucial to delivering this. We're incredibly fortunate. I'm not sure if you can pick up on those pink lines. They're the 400 kV networks that come right in close to the resource areas in Wales. And I think because of those aspects, the ports, the skills, the supply chains and the resource, in 2014, the Crown Estate, again with an evidence-based approach, designated 2 array-scale demonstrations for us. I know Ken's going to cover this, and it's already been mentioned. I think that was a game changer for us overnight, the allocation of 100 million euros in Wales, and also the city deal as well. And also a further 299 million euros based on research and innovation, and that's allowed some of the universities in Wales to also assist in the sector greatly. I'm not going to dwell too much on this. I just thought it was really useful sometimes to see a spatial approach and an appreciation of where all of these activities are going on. You're going to hear from all of these developers as we go through the day. Really exciting that Monesto and Morlice are driving things forward in Anglesey, you know, and attracted a lot of investment, a lot of developers and a lot of interest. One of the developers who can't be here today, that's actually because they're actually redeploying their device this week at the mouth of the Haven, which is Wavetricity. You're going to hear from MPS this afternoon. You're going to hear a whole session on the city deal, which is really important. Nova with their project plans off the Llyn and Bardsey. A floating power plant who are looking at a scoping exercise for a hybrid offshore floating wind and wave. I've already mentioned CCAMS and the importance of linking up the Welsh universities to support this sector. Again, you know, also some further exciting plans about further tidal range projects off the North Wales coast as well. So again, I'm not going to go into the detail. This is being picked up through the day, but as you can see from that slide, a lot of it going on. A lot of our activity is obviously driving economic benefits. Please bear in mind that we collected this data in January 2017, so it's already a year out of date at the moment. The other point to mention is this is before commercialisation, but we looked at wave, tidal stream and range, and this is just direct impacts as well. It's not considering the wider supply chain benefits and the GVA that goes up from that. But investment to Wales back in January 2017 was just under 70 million. We can guarantee that that's gone up since then. We will be refreshing this report shortly to coincide with the next year. And that's another important fact, I think. At a UK level, £1 of public support has managed to leverage £7 of private sector investment. So from an investment perspective, it is money well spent. What does that mean? We now have around about 170 full-time equivalent people working specifically on marine energy in Wales. Again, that doesn't include wider supply chain benefits and multipliers. So that's over 100 jobs created in the last 2 years. And I think that is really the structural funding kicking in and starting to make a difference. So it is having impacts. A little bit about, I guess, more, you're going to hear about the activity in Wales as we go through the day. I thought it was worth a few minutes on what actually Marine Energy Wales does. We're an industry-led body. Our business plan and outputs are driven by the industry and by the sector. They're prioritised quarterly by the Marine Energy Wales board just to make sure that we're focused. We hold a number of fully booked working group meetings. I bet it's been great. We've had to challenge that roundtable approach that we're really passionate about keeping and capping those numbers to 45. We seem to be adding a table on every meeting, but so that's been interesting. I've mentioned policy, you know, and again, from a sector, I think it's been really refreshing and really, really positive for us to be involved in groups like the Marine Planning Stakeholder Reference Group and really having a meaningful engagement with the marine planning team and being able to influence the Welsh National Marine Plan and getting the sector in there strongly and including strategic resource areas as well. Also part of Brexit groups, we have a number of assembly member events and obviously talking with our local MPs. We had a Secretary of State visit based around the city deal at the port fairly recently, and he was incredibly supportive. We also partner in research projects. It's quite good for Marine Energy Wales to do that. We don't have IP to protect, so we can make sure all of that information is shared. We've done a number of projects with CCAMs. The recent ones include diving seabirds and impacts of marine mammals, and also some wider EU projects. Selkie is one that we're working on at the moment. Again, communications is really, really important for us, so we've been trying to collaborate that around Wales, and the team have been doing a really good job of that. And again, I think one of our roles is to get out and promote Wales and all the things that are going on, and we do that obviously by attending conferences, not just holding our own, but going to others. Canada, IT's, IUK, and just the ones that are coming up where we will have a presence, All Energy, ICOE, Ocean Energy Europe, and we've managed to get a marine energy panel at the Invest in Blue conference in London as well that considers the wider maritime sector. I've mentioned this word a number of times, but we are collaborating, including with other trade bodies, IUK Cymru, Scottish Renewables. We have an MOU with Canada. We have an MOU with Wave Hub. We work very closely with Scotland anyway, and we're just exploring the potential for closer working with France, in particular Brittany, Sweden. I know we're here today, and we've just begun discussions with the Department of Energy in the USA as well. So again, that collaboration, not just at a Welsh level, but also at an EU and international level is really important for us. Consultation responses, there seems to be a raft of consultation responses to feed into, so that's something that we do. Projects, sector-specific support, again, that's something that Marine Energy Wales pushes for. An example of that just recently is engaging with the fishing industry and the NGOs and just making sure that they're kept up to speed with the projects. Sometimes the first time the fishing industry might hear about it is a project in a seabed for lease. So we're just trying to get ahead of that curve and make sure that they're involved and they know about the projects and the project development. Another thing that we do is a specific consents meeting, and again, I'd just like to welcome the input from NRW on that, is for them to come and sit around a table with developers and have some real detailed discussions on how we can improve that process, you know, and make it, I guess, fit for purpose and the best process that we can, and again, really, really welcome that NRW are involved in that. Joe's going to talk to you about marine energy test areas later on. And I've just got a couple more slides, specifically about a supply chain project. An education program that we're running as well. So we've just done this fairly recently, and we will be releasing the report shortly. But first of all, we held a number of awareness-raising events around the supply chain and their engagement with the sector. We held the first event in Pembrokeshire, and we planned for 40. We were blown away when 140 people turned up. That sent the catering budget out of the window. We initially planned bacon sandwiches for everyone. It ended up being really, really small pastries. So apologies if you came to that event and you were dismayed with the breakfast. But yeah, supply chain companies and mapping, also an assessment of the supply chain and the capability, and also some recommendations going forward. So what does that mean? We now have a database of over 300 Welsh companies that are actually involved or identified to being involved. And we've broken these down into a number of detailed areas that you can see on the screen there. So just looking at, fabrication, hydraulics, electronics, marine ops, so a whole raft of where the sector can become involved. What's clear to come out of that study is diversification is actually taking place already, particularly from oil and gas, engineering and maritime sectors. Some of the barriers that were mentioned that have come from the supply chain sector themselves has just been interesting. Just again, uncertainty over UK government policy makes it difficult for them to plan if they're not sure, what kind of future the renewable sector has. Brexit was obviously flagged up and mentioned. The stop-start pipeline at the moment for the sector in terms of projects that are coming through. Interestingly as well, from a supply chain perspective, convergence and the need for the sector to start converging on some designs that will help them build their industries and build their support around that. Something that they talked about is the funding that's been mainly directed at developers and less so at supply chain companies at the moment. And some of the smaller SMEs as well, the whole procurement policy, they find that a little bit of a barrier in terms of how they get involved in that and how they can identify their way into the sector. But what has come out of it is a real strong support from the supply chain to develop partnerships and collaborations, and in particular to develop turnkey solutions that will strengthen the areas that those supply chain companies are working in. Our next steps is to take that in a bit more detail, Pan Wales, try and collate some real strong supply chain clusters and assist with collaborations and business-to-business meetings. As I say, we will be launching that report in the very near future. Education. This is something that is quite close to our heart as a coastal forum, but we've managed to go out and help deliver the national curriculum in a number of schools across Wales and bring marine energy into primary schools under the STEM banner, and also secondary level from a careers perspective as well. We've had around about 500 students be involved in this across a number of schools. We've been delivering these lessons in the classroom as part of the curriculum, but also getting them outside when the teachers will allow it. Schools don't seem to have a budget these days for getting out, and they don't seem to have a budget that is anything to do with the curriculum. So we've become aware of that and made sure that happens. I guess for us as well, it was about trying to tell the youngsters that there is opportunities for them in their locality with future sectors, and you don't have to leave the area to get jobs. So we've been, delivering this with partners and with industry, and we're delighted. In the image there, we have a bunch of school kids with a Marine Power Systems wave energy device. I'm not sure how happy MPS were with students climbing all over their device, but it was a great day and really exciting. I think Anna's already covered these points this morning, which is great to hear and see, and how the sector is driving inward investment. There really is export potential. Long-term energy security, I think, will become important. I think we can still say this. I'm not sure how long we can keep saying it for. The UK is leading the world at the moment, driven by the test centre network around. Obviously, Maygen project really groundbreaking at the moment. Lots of stuff with Scott Renewables as well, and Nova. It's exciting to see. This has already been mentioned before. Whether there's a market, I think, is going to be discussed more in session 2. What there is undoubtedly is interest globally now. There's a lot of countries really getting involved in this sector and looking at where they can get involved. And I guess the USA and Canada in particular, even under the Trump administration, which I'm sure is challenging to get renewable energy involved in there. America has just very recently allocated tens of millions of pounds to marine energy as well, and about developing test centres there. So it is happening. It's a great opportunity. I think it's fair to say we've had this opportunity before with wind, and I think it's fair to say we dropped the ball, and that ball being dropped, you've got 28,000 people in Denmark now generating 8 billion a year. So whilst we're developing, which is great to see, UK offshore wind farms, a high percentage of that supply chain is not UK based. So what we need is continued policy support from UK government, and that's really crucial for us to capitalise on this early mover advantage. And for me, I guess, the wording of blue economies and peripheral economies and all those kind of things, naively probably for me, we live on planet Ocean. I find it quite ludicrous that we're not gaining energy from our oceans, and I think that's really important, and it will become more important as we move forward. I think I'm nearly there. 10 minutes, I think I did it. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, David.